and welcome to the second edition or second episode of the Authentic Jo Show. I am Jo Lena Johnson, your host. Authentic Jo being my first name is Jo, and my middle name is Lena. Lena means love. Excuse me, Jo means love, and Lena means light. And I am so excited to be here with you today. Our show's topic is toxic family secrets. That's right, toxic family secrets. And we all have secrets, but are we willing to share? And some secrets are healthy. Sometimes you have some things that you just have to keep to yourself and you deal with it and it's healthy. But then you have those other things that can become toxic, those things that affect other people, those things that help people not know about their health, help people not know about their relationships, not know about their lives, and maybe not even know about their identity. It's a really big deal. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to thank you for being on the show. I know we have some people who are watching through Facebook, so thank you to our Facebook followers. And also, I'm going to encourage you to watch it on YouTube. Watch it right now live on YouTube, and also watch it on the replays on YouTube. We're trying to build up this YouTube channel, so I really appreciate it. And my goal is to help solve problems. That's why I'm here. I've spent a lot of my life in problems, causing problems, having problems, and I've been resilient as a result. And so my goal is really to help. We are introducing a new segment, and it's called Ask Authentic Jo. This is where I'm going to get a question that I have not seen before, thanks to my wonderful production team in the background. They're going to share the question, and then I'm going to answer it. And I'm doing that because I promise you to be authentic. I don't have all the answers, but I promise you we can work through problems together if we're willing. And I want to encourage you to come on. I've already put the link up in Facebook, and it should be the link in YouTube. So if you are interested in joining the discussion, I would certainly appreciate your participation, because the more you share, the more you care, and the more others will grow as well. And you might find that it helps you as well. Okay, so I'm ready for my Ask Authentic Jo question. That was fancy. I'm sorry. Okay, here's the question. How do I forgive a family member that has done me wrong, especially when they have never acknowledged or apologized for what they did? Okay, keep that up, production. Okay. How do I forgive a family member who has done me wrong, especially when they have never acknowledged or apologized for what they did? Let me just say this. If that person is your parent, and maybe a parent who is a male, they may never apologize. If that person is of a certain age, they may never apologize. You have to make a decision. Is it worth having that person in your life or not? And based on your choice, you choose to forgive or not. We can all feel done wrong, but I'm going to tell you something. The number one cause of conflict is lack of or miscommunication. It typically happens for one of three reasons or all three reasons: gender differences, generational differences, and personality style differences. Okay, so if you are dealing with someone of a different generation, you see the world differently based on the way you grew up. They see the world differently based on the way they grew up. Back in the day, you didn't talk about certain things. They felt it wasn't your place to know certain things, so they refused to talk about it. And some of them have taken those secrets to the grave. At the same time, some of us, and I don't mind saying I'm a middle-aged person, some of us, we don't see things that way. We want to know what's going on, and we've been affected by those wrongs. However, it's your peace of mind. It's you have to look at every day. It's you have to go to sleep with every day. And so you have to determine, was this wrong, so wrong that they no longer deserve a place in your life? Or is it worth forgiving them and maybe not trusting them in the same manner? So there is a difference with forgiveness, and then there is a difference between saying, you know what, I'm going to forgive you, but you're no longer going to have that same place in my life. So I think that's important. The other thing is, oftentimes they're not going to acknowledge it, you all. When we talk about gender differences, many times women will take things in and we'll blame ourselves. And oftentimes men will blame everybody else and they won't take responsibility for it. I'm not blaming men. I'm not blaming women. It's just how we've traditionally been raised and how we do things. And so, your definition of wrong is going to be different than somebody else's definition of wrong. And so you have to make that determination for yourself. And then what can you do about it? I'm going to take the question a little further. If they haven't acknowledged it and you can't get over it, go talk to them. And you could say something like, hey, we'll call them, hey, Dave, I know we're family. We love each other. And I I'd like to talk to you about something that's kind of difficult. Would you be willing to talk to me about it? And they're going to say, sure. And then you say, such and such happened a few years back, 25 years back, 19 years back. I can't get over it. Or you might say something happened last week and you did it to me for the third time and it hurts. Maybe you didn't realize it hurt, but it hurts. And I'm not sure if you knew what you were doing or if you did it purposely, but I was hoping we can talk about it. And perhaps I might even receive an apology. What do you think? And stop right there with the what do you think? And let Dave say whatever Dave says. And Dave might say, oh, girl, young man, child, I wasn't even thinking about that. Or they may say, you know what? I hurt you because I've been hurt. I apologize. You didn't deserve that. But if you don't try for the apology, if it really matters to you and you don't ask, you will never get one. And you have to determine if that is worth losing sleep over. And I promise you, I've had a lot of people do me wrong in my life. My circle has gotten a lot smaller, and not just with friends, but also with family, because I just decided that some relationships were not worth keeping because they hurt too much. But that's a decision only you can make. And the last thing I would say, pray about it. And then have the courage, and hopefully you have the words to help you to get through it. Well, that's my answer to Ask Authentic Joe. I'm going to ask you to type in the chat, send me a Facebook inbox, send me an email, and ask more questions so that I can answer at least one question every time we have a live broadcast. And again, today's topic is toxic family relationships. Toxic family secrets. And so as we're waiting to see if anybody's going to come on, I just wanted to share a couple of things. You may notice that I write when I am doing the broadcast. It's because I'm a writer and I love to listen and I love to learn. I also love to share facts and figures and things like that. So I'm looking at my phone. I'm also writing, but I'm completely here with you. So there are 7 harmful types of family secrets. One is a healthy secret. And that could be something that, you joke about. It might be a nickname or something like that you all know. Or maybe somebody fell off a swing and, they said a cuss word when they were 3 years old, or, something like that. Or maybe it's something that maybe could have been harmful, but wasn't harmful and everybody's grateful. So you kind of keep it to yourself. Maybe between siblings, you did something that your parents have never found out about and you never want them to find out about. Those could be healthy secrets. Then you have unhealthy secrets, and those stem from taboo topics like criminal behavior, morality issues, ethical violations, and things like that. And those can hurt family dynamics, especially when your behavior affects other people in your family, because your choices, because you're related to them, do affect other people. This has happened to me. Some of you know I'm an author. I'm also a ghostwriter and a book publisher. And I've worked with a lot of people who have talked to me about some things they've never talked to anybody else about. And had that person just spoken up and said, hey, mom, such and such in our family is inappropriately touching me, then maybe mom would have gotten the courage to do something about it. Mom may have been working 2 or 3 jobs and she didn't know. Or, hey, dad, one of my relatives is inappropriately touching me and has been doing it for a while, and I need your protection. But what about those times when somebody is inappropriately touching? And I have to use those key words, you all. I can't say other words because I can get dinged on the internet. So we're just going to say inappropriate touching, but it could be way worse than that. And what about if you tell them and they know that you're suffering, but then they come back and say, well, I have other kids and we need that income, so you just got to get over it. It's happened and it happens. But we must protect the children. Again, we're talking about toxic family secrets. What about parents keeping secrets from each other and getting the kids involved? Oh my goodness, this is one of the most terrible things that can happen, right? They're keeping secrets from each other and then the kids know about it and then they're talking about it and maybe somebody is taking one side and somebody is taking the other side. Can anybody relate to what I'm saying? You may not want to. You can relate because we can't see you, so you can nod your head. It's okay. All right. And this could be extramarital affairs. This could be shopping addictions. This could also be gambling, and this could be addiction with substances. It happens a lot. And then all of a sudden, all the money's gone. These are things that happen. These are true problems because, you all, when people have secrets, I don't know if you all know, Gladys Knight, she had a gambling addiction for a very, very, very long time. And it's a great thing that she actually had a lot of money, which lasted for a long time. But when her daughter, when she had to call because her daughter couldn't get in school and the school called, it was a real problem because her mother found out. And then when her mother found out, she told her brother Bubba. And then Bubba helped her get out of the problems because she almost lost everything because she loved to gamble. And she was living in Las Vegas, which made it even worse. So if Gladys Knight could have a gambling addiction, there's certainly we could have a gambling addiction and not want anybody to know about it. But the issue is, don't just keep it there. Make sure that you do something about it. Okay. Now, it could also be about sexual orientation. It could be about if somebody finds out, you'll think, oh, they won't love me anymore. They won't like me anymore. I'm going to tell you something. Just because you behave badly doesn't mean somebody doesn't love you, but they may not know how to deal with you or deal with their own feelings toward what you did. So sometimes you need some space and sometimes you need to consider what's going on. All right. Remember, if you want to join the live show, we do have the links in the comments below. So please click on the link if you want to join the show tonight. I'm almost done. Number 5, keeping secrets from the kids. Okay. I want to talk about this one. When parents try to hide something that's going on, especially when it comes to finances or health, it is a problem because oftentimes whatever's going on with your health is going to affect the child directly because they might also have the same condition or inherit it, or they're going to end up having to take care of you. So how about this? Let them know what's going on. Don't say, oh, I don't want them to worry. No, I didn't want you. Well, you're so far away. I didn't want to tell you. No, let them know what's going on so that maybe you can come up and solve the problem together. That is so important. Can you tell I'm a little sensitive about that subject? Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay. There are triggers that happen, you guys. Okay, and then sometimes there are split family secrets, and those are the difficult ones where maybe 2 people know the secret, but the other one doesn't, and then now they feel like they can't look you in the eye because they know about those things. And it might be about abuse, inappropriate touching, or, harmful things that can happen to people. And then all in the family secrets. So, it might be about a learning disability. It might be about being a predator of some kind. When we were growing up, we oftentimes saw movies and they would say, oh, that's just crazy Uncle Robert in the room, right? Oh, that's just crazy. Well, what made him crazy? And what type of crazy is he? And is crazy a real diagnosis? Is he something else? Is something else going on with Robert and nobody wanted to address it, so they keep him in the back room? You just want to think about that. So why am I spending so much time talking about toxic family secrets? It's because oftentimes we have these problems and we don't know how to address them, and we're not willing to talk about them. So it looks like I have somebody who's come on and is ready to talk. So right before she comes on, I'm so excited she's in the studio. Kim said, hey, kids can handle the truth. We can't protect them from maybe things we don't know. It's not, the end is not there, but kids can handle the truth. And that's absolutely true. Oh, kids can handle more info than we think they can. That's absolutely true. And I want to say, kids see you. They see when you're joyful. They see when you're hurt. They see when you're crying, and you're trying to hide stuff from the kids, but the kids know when something's going on. So just keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead, and I have Ronnie in the studio. So I'm going to welcome her and see what's going on and see if we can talk about what's happening with her. Hi there, Ronnie. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Jo?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So in what way has family secrets affected your life?
Well, I can definitely say this. When I heard about this topic, I was a bit interested simply because I've gone through, just different things in life that some others can reflect upon and say, okay, I've been there. I've made it through it. I'm still going through things that have, uh, where, let me put it like this. I felt like I was the family secret, so to speak, because I never knew my father.
Oh,
And it felt as if, like, I'm in my 40s now. I'll be 50 next year. And I looked up in my 40s, and here's a drowning of, information coming in from different family members, like who my father may be. But yet, all through my life, I was just told, it's almost like I'm just miraculously here because no one remembers. All out of 11 siblings, when I asked, no one remembers when I was born, for instance.
Okay, hold on. I have questions.
Yes.
Okay. 11 siblings of yours. There are
Of
12
my
of your mother's.
aunties and uncles.
Okay.
Of course, being siblings of my mom, when you ask questions about your father and they tell, and it's like no one even remembers when you were born.
Okay, so is your mom still alive?
Yes.
Okay, so it's interesting that you directly went to her siblings as opposed to her. I'm not trying to get too much in your business, but I have to make it make sense. So, are you saying that you've asked your mother about your father and she refused to tell you, and then you talked to her siblings and then they wouldn't tell you either, or what?
It actually comes down to years ago, of course, as a young child asking who's your father. That's neither here or there. Once again, where it's like it's neither here or there. I got you, I'm mom, those type of things as a younger child. But I was also told who she believed was my father.
Okay.
So how you go around with the story, your father was in the military, etc. So he never knew you were born. So that was the story I was given.
From your
And
mother?
yes, from mom. And this all started with my mom, of course, because I'm going back, like grade school into middle school. Um, but it would come on to where I was told another name, but it was a brother of his that helped with me more so. But you know how you remember little things like from being a child, your mom filling out something. And I was like, goodness, I was like, she put a name down, and this came up, I guess, I don't know if it was something school or, birth certificate wise, but,
Mm-hmm.
I remember little bits and pieces. And I was given a picture years ago that was taken from me later. So it was
Mm.
always like I spoke of who your father may be, that's that's not him, because later on, so this is like it's 11, 12, 13, 14 on going out of high school. It became where my cousin and I actually went to find who she said it was.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, could be, because the
Mhm.
description, everything fit,
Okay.
and it went on into where later on, he stopped. Like we would text here and there, him and I, because we didn't know. And at the time, I wasn't thinking of DNA testing or anything like that, because he said it's possible. Yeah, he could be my father, But he just stopped calling. His number changed. Um, Went back
Okay.
to the house.
Okay. Let's stop there. And what happened when his number changed and he stopped calling? How did that make you feel?
Oh my goodness. That goes back into where I felt like, what do I do now? Because at this point, when I would go to my mom and say, okay, I found the home, da 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 da, she would like literally just kind of throw it away. Like they just push it aside or make you try to forget to even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt as if, once again, I'm like, okay, if this is him, and I'm telling her he's, this home, he was still there.
Okay. So do you think that your mom contacted him and said, don't talk to her anymore, since you were going back telling her all the details, Ronnie? Let's look
You,
back.
yeah, and you know what? Thinking back, in a way, no, because later on, and I can definitely say now, no.
Okay.
And then I think I just felt like, okay, because I did find out too at this point that he had other daughters, and he had another daughter a few months away, and he had also been married.
Okay.
So with us being the same age, I thought it's because of his wife more. So, like I have wife
Mhm.
and kids. I can't tell them because they didn't know about him and I even talking at the
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And so now into my 40s, because what happened is, when you in growing, Um, being married, but this is my second marriage. I've been with my husband now for 16 years. And but my first marriage with my three beautiful children was, lovely. But my children would ask, "Mom, do you have a dad?" Things, "Mom, who's your dad?"
I'm glad you
And
brought that up. The way that
yeah,
it affects generations, family secrets
exactly.
affect generations. Okay, so I'm gonna interrupt you for a minute, Ronnie. I've never talked to you about this before. I only spoke with you very briefly
Right.
on the phone.
Yeah.
So let me just ask, why have you not had further discussion with your mother? What is the real? Okay, hold on. Before
Yeah.
you answer, what is the heart of the reason that you have not had a full discussion with your mom? Because you don't seem like a shy person. You
Yeah.
sound very genuine. It sounds like it's important to you. It's about your identity. So
Yeah.
why is it
That's it.
that you do not have the answer from your mother?
I truly believe, once again, it goes back into in a sense, I think it's the family's. I don't know. I don't know if it's a family secret, so to speak, or her secret. If that makes sense. I don't know if it. I felt like was it rape? Was he so
Oh
much
yeah,
older?
we can't use that word anymore, but it's okay. I
Yeah,
understand. Yes, yes. Only because of social
I meant
media.
to.
Yeah,
And I do apologize. I
yeah,
meant to answer you that.
yeah.
Yes, but I think it goes into more. It keeps feeling that way because no one in
No one
years
will touch this. No one will touch the subject.
no one touches the subject. They'll talk to me about it when I call, but
Hmm.
everyone's like, they don't, no one can tell me what house she stayed in when I was born in 73.
Hmm.
No one can say I was at the birth. No one says, it's weird. But in the meantime, in my 40s, I found out that it could possibly be like a third or fourth uh,
Person.
family member, cousin.
Okay.
Because like I have one aunt, that mentioned to me, aunt in love, who mentioned to me someone, and I had heard this name once before years ago.
Hmm.
And and going back to the guy that I was originally told, I did a DNA test a couple of years ago with him. We got back in contact with, his daughter and things through Facebook. We
Hmm.
were kind of crossing our fingers, perhaps maybe we are.
Right.
He wasn't, of course. That's why I'm here again.
Gotcha.
He wasn't. And this is in my 40s, and that was originally in my like early 20s, like late teens, 20s, when I found him earlier on. So,
Mm.
but in the meantime, it goes to show you how our and no, I love my mom,
Yes.
and we have grown so much in the last, like I say, like 9 years here.
Hmm.
Because I did have a lot of resentment. I realized a lot of attitude that I had, or I was never, just out there in the world in trouble, but
Hmm.
I was the type of person where, I had that, I snipped back at my mom because I felt like, like, you won't even tell me, who you were with,
Right.
or who's my dad. And I didn't realize that,
So,
earlier on. So yeah, I
so
feel
is
like
that
it's a
right?
secret.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. It sounds like you have a lot of love and compassion and respect for your mother.
that's it. Yeah.
At the same time, I think your mother must have some type of shame in some way, whatever the
Yeah.
source of that shame is. So when we talk about the heart of the problem, and when we, as other people are listening to family secrets and what they can do, they can destroy relationships. And it's great that you have the maturity, and like you said, over the last 9 years, that you've allowed your relationship to grow with your mom. But oftentimes, adults especially, we do have shame about things. We have shame about what we did or what we didn't do. We have
Yeah.
shame about what happened to us or certain conditions we have, and we may not know how to grow through them. Something else is, as we get older, just because we get older doesn't mean we necessarily are more mature, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, especially if something traumatic happened to your mom, she just may not be willing to face you about it. And because she has so many siblings, they may feel loyalty to your mom to feel like it's not our place to tell, because I'm assuming your aunts and uncles are of a certain age, probably in their 60s and 70s, I'm assuming. And
70
so
plus.
70,
Mm-hmm.
70 plus. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
generation that would say,
Yeah.
it's not my place. What goes on in the house stays in the
Baby.
house. Okay. And so, Ronnie, if I could give you a bit of advice, I would write a letter to your mother and I would ask her, I would say, Mom, I love you. I respect you. And I don't know if there is some type of shame associated with this or not, but who I am matters to me and my children and our future generations.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if you would be willing to tell me the circumstances of my conception and my birth. And if
Yeah.
you would be willing to tell me that, it would make me feel whole as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, and particularly as your daughter. Now, I'm just saying this, and you can go back and write it verbatim after we get off the video, okay? Because
Back and rewind.
I can remember what I said, but
Yeah.
but I'm saying that to say
Yeah.
that if you write those things and some of the other things I've heard, I feel bad because although I might be a confident person, I don't know about my identity and it's frustrating and it's
Yeah.
hurtful to me because the people who I know love me won't tell me and it's because they're
Yeah.
loyal to you and they don't want to betray you. But if you don't tell me, you're betraying me.
Yeah.
Now, I think you should write this letter. Now, I did not say you have to give it to her, Ronnie. Okay, we're just taking one step at a time. And for any of you all who are listening,
Mhm.
okay, but if you write this down
Mhm.
and talk about how these secrets, this secret of your conception and your birthright has affected you, it may assist her. Maybe, if nothing else, maybe she writes a letter back to you and she can tell you in her letter where she couldn't tell you face to face. Because I would hate for your mother to go on to glory and this is a secret and you never find out the truth.
Yes. And when you mentioned the letter, I just did that, right before, right after the DNA test. And it's come about where she's just like, I just don't know. But at this point, she has dementia. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Well, I
So,
I can relate to that.
yeah. And I have, like, I'm on my heritage. I had to put it up for a while because it kind of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
When you just get that, it's not, he's not, then it's like you have no clue, um, where to go from there. But once again, it does go back to where we were talking about our generations, where I don't want my kids, they might be sitting right next in school, with a sibling, with some, a relative, period. I don't know. And it's just like, for me, the same way I meant to say, I could be with a sibling, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, or things like, it's just a lot. Because as I've come into myself in my late 30s and 40s, concerned about, who I am, my health, things like that. We have cancer in the family, things like that. But I always tell someone, you need to know. It's important to me to know who I am.
Yes.
As a Black woman, and then also for my children to know at least a name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a face, anything would be good. But it's one of those things, and at one point, I guess I just became kind of numb to it, where I was just like, okay, just live with it. But it became too important when you watch what's going on in the world, when you see people getting sick and you don't know where it came from, or, just different things like you were mentioning, your health. I just feel it's very important. But it's a difficult conversation for me with my mom
Right.
at times, because it hurts so bad to hear, I just don't know. And then as a woman myself, I try to think of what situations could take place that you end up pregnant, and
You
then
don't know.
even in the, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've asked these things many a times, and it's been more than once I've done the letter, things like that. But I think maybe she felt it rested after I found out he wasn't my father. But I told her I was going to keep going. I don't know if she really heard that, you know what I mean, at that time. But she's no longer fussing about it or anything. She's like, yeah, okay, well, that's what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it still makes you feel like you're still alive, you can't help. And that's the part where I go into toxicity, because I think for a long time, I just, I felt like I was angry, because it's like, why are you just telling me I don't know?
Well, Ronnie, I think you have the right to feel angry. Okay. And
Mhm.
you've said a lot of things that touch me. And I don't want to reveal too much because I'm hosting a show. So I don't want to reveal too much of my family because I've gotten in trouble for that, writing about it in books. But I will
Yeah.
say that Alzheimer's and dementia runs in my family. And also, and I don't mind revealing this because we're probably going to do a show about it. But when you talked about health related things, I actually have diabetes.
Yeah.
And I did not know that diabetes ran in my family. I
Yeah.
had no clue, no clue. I also
Mhm.
had fibroids,
Mhm.
and I didn't know fibroids ran in my
Yes.
family. But it was
Mhm.
because certain family members never told me about it. So I was walking around clueless. And in the summertime, I would go to 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee. And I would
Yes.
drink a Slurpee every single day. Okay.
Wow.
And then one
Mhm.
day I felt like a sharp pain run through my leg. And it was like, and then it went down to my ankle. I was like, what is going on? And I
What
was telling the
is?
person I was with, I was like, something's wrong. And then he was just like, oh, it that couldn't have affected you like that. And so then
Yeah.
of course I went and I got tests, and they didn't test for diabetes because I didn't know diabetes was even a consideration in my family line,
Exactly.
right? And so
Mhm.
then it took 8 years for me to be diagnosed.
Get out of here.
And then
Wow.
my A1C was extremely high. And
Wow.
then I just happened to be around the people. And then I found out, oh my gosh, you have diabetes. Well, no wonder I have diabetes. And
Exactly.
then another secret. Um, I was watching television and they said, oh, the federal government finally acknowledged that grandchildren of Vietnam vets are more likely to have diabetes. And I said, what?
What? Yeah.
Grandchildren? So if grandchildren are more susceptible, then guess what? Children would be as well, right?
Exactly.
And so
Yes.
what I'm saying is, it's sad that we have to learn about things from others on the
Yes.
media or speculation. And I am not minimizing what's happening with you, but you still have some aunts and uncles out there, and somebody knows the truth. And maybe at the point where maybe with your mom's memory issues now, maybe they'll go ahead and come clean. But I just want to, it's almost making me cry. I just want to apologize to you because I know it's hurtful. And there are so many people who are walking around. And if there's anyone right now who has a secret and they feel like they can't talk about it because their shame is so big, I want to encourage you to let your love be so big. Let your
Yes.
love for yourself be so big. Let your love for your child be so big. Let your
Yes.
love for your loved one be so big that that shame goes out the window. Because we've all done things, we've all had
Yes.
experiences, and who cares about that part? Let's get to the love part. Let's get to the healing part. Let's
And
deal
have
with what we have to deal with together.
yes, and that's exactly it. It's like for me, it's just that's what it would be. It's a relief. It's just that relief. But I just feel as if I don't speak about this, and it's hard.
Yes,
I guess you can even hear it in my voice that you can say so much,
right,
but of course, you want to censor because you love your family.
right.
And I'm speaking of my mother when I say my family. I love
I
my
know.
mom, and she loves me and beautiful, beautiful person, all of that. But mom, it's okay. I just feel like as an adult, I can handle these conversations. And
Yes,
I've even said different scenarios to her to say that, like, it's okay, mom. I can take it. He can be locked up in prison. He can be dead.
right.
I can take that. He might have been older and but I don't, whatever.
Mhm.
I can take this at this point, but just to know so that I can say, okay, boom, and just answer a few, once again, the health questions and just know
Right.
my background
Well,
because it's important for my kids. It's important, it's important to me just to know who I am, to feel
right.
more whole. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and I do have
I,
someone. They sent me a note, and they've given me a story, and they inboxed me on Facebook and asked me to keep it anonymous, so I don't do know who sent this to me, but I would like to read this story. Would you like to stay on and maybe we can talk about it?
yes, I
Okay.
can.
All right. So first, I want to thank you all so much. Everybody who's been here with us since we first started in the beginning of this show, we're talking about toxic family secrets. I want to thank my guest Ronnie for coming on to talk about her secret. And if you heard anything in Ronnie's voice, if you heard anything in my voice, if you heard anything from what we said, if you got any context and it's going to help you to have the courage to either tell what you need to tell or ask the questions you need to ask, please do so. because you never know what you're doing or not doing, how it affects other people, and especially the people you love. So, Ronnie, would you like to stay on while I read this and maybe we can talk about it?
I sure can.
Okay. So it's a man. We're gonna call him Jack.
Oh,
Okay, so we're gonna call him Jack. I'm just reading it directly from my phone, you all. So that's what I'm doing. During my 20s, it felt like eventually one of five female friends shared that they had an inappropriate, intimate, we'll call it intimate, related experience during their adolescence by a slightly older or much older male family member. Wow. He said at least one out of five. In my 30s, I found out one of my three uncles from my grandfather by his second wife were my cousins. Let me say that again. In my 30s, I found out one of my three uncles from my grandfather by his second wife were my cousins. And I spent 3 summers in a row during elementary school years. Had intimate related situations inappropriately with my female cousin who was in first and second grade. They were between 15, 16, and 17 at the time, 1 year apart. Oh my goodness.
Jeez. Oh, wow.
In my 30s, the
Yeah.
cousins shared a rare trip down memory lane, which led to the inappropriate revelation. My female cousin has nothing to do with them and never shared what happened ever before. After frustration built up over nothing being said, I called up one of my long distant uncles, specifically mentioned that and asked him, demanded, excuse me, specifically mentioned to demand he make efforts to apologize to heal the past hurt that my cousin expressed. He at first denied it, but then I shared some inappropriate games I remembered somewhat that I later realized were inappropriate. So then instead of admitting wrongs and apologizing, he said, back then the devil was my father, but now the Lord is my father. Oh my goodness. And
Uh,
proceeded to speak on scripture and the blessings of accepting the Savior. You know, this is you.
that's just
It
that.
happens too much. It happens too much. Okay, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm okay. I told him that because of their actions, my cousin will never be open to having a relationship with granddad, him, his brothers, their kids ever. He went on preaching about being born again and renewed, that he now lives for the Lord. No apology, no accountability, but I got an impromptu sermon. Needless to say, my cousin is an attorney and had prosecuted intimate abuse crimes for years before going into private practice. Jack, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Wow, Jack. Yes. Uh, wow. That's heavy. Let me say this. I on more of a personal level, this happens more than we know. I
Yes.
can say that much. And I think it's sad because we are taught, first of all, a lot of things flash back to us as adults that we just block out, because of those type of things that happened to the cousin. But it goes back to where I'm one of those people that I always step ahead and say, well, where did that person end up, and did this continue? Because there you go, having someone saying, put the Lord, and you want to make it into religion, but it's a way of washing it away.
Yes.
But where's your accountability? And have you gotten any help for what has happened? Okay, so even if you were a teenager, you know how we look at kids as kids. Okay, I was under the age of 18, 17 in some states, but it'll continue. So I think that goes to where we have to take, because we are now grown and we realize what went on, or we hear these secrets, these things that happen.
Right.
What do we do with it from that moment on? I think that it's very important for each one of us to have conversations with our own children,
Yes.
to stay, because like she does, we end up staying away from family members,
Right.
or it could be a next door neighbor, and we don't want to tell our parents what happened, but they keep trying to make us go there anyway. But
Yes.
that goes back to, it's natural for us to stay away and stray away, but that person will never heal.
Right.
So I think that as Jack, I would maybe have that conversation with that cousin, that I remember something inappropriate happening to myself, for instance, if it did, you know, to
Right.
him, or
Right.
but
Well,
come to,
yeah.
because maybe
Well,
they need to heal from
yeah.
that, because you can't help this person who puts it on religion, because you know the time has gone past to do anything about what happened.
Right.
But I think it's important to do the self work because
Yes.
of what we have done.
Yes, I thank you for that, Ronnie. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts about this. And I want you to, as you go forward, I want to congratulate you for being what it seems to be a pretty well-rounded person and a forgiving person with a kind heart. And I hope that sometime before it's too late, you do find out the identity of your father. And I want to thank you for your bravery and your courage to come on my show. And thank you for also allowing me to read the letter while you were on. And I hope, give us an update if something changes. And, if you want me to help you some more in terms of crafting that letter or doing anything else with your relatives, reach out to me. I'd appreciate that. Okay.
I sure will. And thank
Okay.
you so much,
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. I clicked it. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to cut off Ronnie. I apologize. Please forgive me. Um, I want to, if you're just now joining us, I want to address Jack's letter. It's very upsetting to me because I often hear grown people say these things. So I want to share a story with you. Um, I went to school with someone, and I'm not going to give ages and stuff because some people can figure it out. So I went to school with somebody, and he revealed to me when we were in our 30s that they had moved from where they lived to St. Louis, and just out of the blue one day. And so we talked about it, and we talked about it, and I was like, well, why was it out of the blue? And then he finally admitted that one of his uncles, his mom's brother, had touched him inappropriately, and he told his mom about it, and she slapped him and said he was lying on her brother. And I said, did you all ever talk about it again? And he was young, you all. He was barely a teenager, okay? If he was even a teenager. And he said he never talked to her about it again, and he was hurt. And to that day, he was hurt because she didn't believe him. And then I said, yeah, but you guys ended up coming to St. Louis. And I said, how long after that? So, I started asking him probing questions. And by the time we finished the conversation, I said, don't you realize your mom probably was so shocked that you would accuse her brother of this toxic family secret, of inappropriately doing these things to you? And I'm talking about all the way, you all, more than once. And I said she probably had to find another job. She probably had to find a place to live and to make it safe for you. And I said, I'm sorry that she never had the courage to come back and talk to you about it. But I promise you, I believe her actions reflected that she was trying to protect you. And that night we cried because I do believe that we had this conversation because that was probably true. And in this conversation, if you have been listening, when Jack messengered me and said that his young girl cousins were in first and second grade, and these 15 and 16 and 17-year-old boy cousins were inappropriately acting with them. And then the uncle just acted like it was okay, and that he found the Lord. That is not okay. Those people should have been put in jail. And you can best bet if one cousin was doing it, all of them were doing it because somebody did it to them. Kids don't naturally do that, and they're not naturally attracted to little girls or little boys. And let me say something about little boys. A lot of times we talk about protecting our little girls, but many times we don't protect our little boys. And there are a lot of women predators who will inappropriately do things with little boys. And because they're so ashamed, or they feel like it's supposed to be right, they become hyper in their later age, or not adjusted in their later age because they weren't protected. And this is why family secrets are important. So we could go on and on and on about stories, but I'm just letting you all know, if you're holding in something that has happened to you and it's hurt you, please seek counseling. And I'm not talking about just going to the pastor who's going to say, okay, it's time to forgive them, bless them, let's read the Bible, and now it's all over. No, get some counseling for your heart. Get some counseling for your emotions. I know there are a lot of men, and especially black men, because I know black men. I don't know other men as well as I know black men, okay? But who resort to smoking, and who resort to drinking, or who resort to using the internet, because that's the only way they can feel again. That's the only way they can survive in today's tough times, because they're so stressed and don't have stress relief, or don't feel like they have a safe haven, that they have to resort to those things just to survive. And it's so sad. And a lot of times people are refusing to get help and healing because they're embarrassed, or they don't feel like they have a problem. Going to counseling is not because you have a problem. It's because you're trying to deal with the problems you have in your life, and they may help you go forward. They may help you heal. They may help you have a healthy relationship with yourself, and then perhaps other people. But when we hold it in, it's like we're going to explode. After my first marriage, I had counseling. After someone in my life died significant to me, I had counseling. I was angry. I was hurt. I found out they had a long-term illness and they didn't tell me about it. They knew about it for a long time. And then when they died, everything was just left in my lap. And I was angry. And I went to the counselor, and then the counselor was like, write a letter. Tell them how you feel, blah, blah, blah. And then he asked me the circumstances about, well, what happened surrounding the death and what happened surrounding the conversation. And you all talked a lot. But what about your last conversation? Well, our last conversation had been 4 days before, and we had such a wonderful conversation. And she was asking me about my friends, and we laughed and we kikied. We had the best conversation we had in 3 years. And then the next week she was gone. And he said, don't you know that was an opportunity for you to cherish that conversation, for you to remember her and remember the love you shared in your good times? I was like, wow. He said, right now, he said, do you think that she didn't tell you because she knew you would have dropped everything to come and try to save her if you had? I said, oh my goodness. So then when I started writing the letter, it was more so about, this is what's going on with my day. This is what's been going on with the loss of you. I've been feeling lost. And these are all the things I've been mad at you about. And by the time I was done, it was like 10 pages. I wasn't mad anymore. And he said, even though you're not going to be able to mail it, write it like you're mailing it. And this is a technique that really works, you all. And back before I thought about writing a book or helping people write books, I was writing in my diaries and my journals. And I had a whole bunch of journals, a whole bunch. I mean, I'm talking about the spiral. I like to write. So here's some paper, but the spiral bound notebooks. And I had notebooks and notebooks and notebooks. And I lived in LA. And I said, boy, if anything happened to me in my life is so juicy, I'm burning these things because I don't want anybody to find them. And I burned them. And I wish I hadn't burned them, because I would be writing about that stuff right now. But I'm kind of making light at the same time, making light because I don't want to cry. I can't make excuses for the people who have hurt you. I can't make excuses for you if you've hurt somebody else or you're keeping something that somebody deserves to know. It's time to be better. It's time to be healed. If you need support, get support. If you have a regular job, there's usually an EAP system that will help you to get support. That's employee something protection or whatever, and it will help you. And it doesn't cost if you have a job. Stress is a huge thing right now, and people oftentimes unalive themselves or threaten to unalive themselves if it gets to be too much. And you never know when it gets to be too much. And if you're looking at a family member and they're keeping a secret and they're lying inside, you could just boil. Your blood can just boil because they should just admit it, or they should do something about it. Like the Ask Authentic Joe question. What do you do when somebody's done you wrong? Will you confront it, or you heal from it and you move on? That's what I can say. I think we've reached a good point here, you all. I'm just a little wired up and I apologize, but I want this world to be a better place. And I'll tell you, there have been times when I knew I couldn't do anything else. And personally, I prayed. I used prayer. And there were times when I couldn't even pray anymore. I was so upset. I remember one night when I lived in LA, I cried myself to sleep on the floor of my carpet. And I had that Berber carpet, and I woke up and I had carpet indentions all over. And I was playing Donnie McClurkin's Stand. And I had just had it on repeat on the CD player. For any of you who remember CD players, I had it on repeat. And it was just, after you've done all you can, just stand. Through the storm, through the rain, through the hurt, through the pain, just stand. And that's what I had to do. And even though I was on my knees and I couldn't stand, I was still standing because I stayed. And the next morning when I woke up, I felt better. And in the last few years, I have the Bible on my phone, but a few times I just couldn't even read. I just clutched the Bible, not my phone, but I clutched the Bible and I just cried myself to sleep because that's all I could do, because I didn't have anything else that I could call. I couldn't call on my mother or my father, my sister or my brother. But I had to stand. I had to keep going. And I knew that the Lord wanted to use me for some reason, that he was keeping me here for some reason, and I wanted to make it count. And I'm telling you, whatever you are going through right now, you matter. Whatever has happened to you in your past, you're still here because you matter. You were born for a purpose. So if you're keeping a secret for yourself, if you're keeping a secret for somebody else, if you know there's somebody who needs to be called out because they're hurting other people, because that's what happens generationally, that happens generationally. Because whatever happens to Jack's cousins probably came from another generation, which caused that inappropriate behavior to pass it on and pass it on. So admit what you've done, apologize. Shame should not outweigh love. Let me say it one more time. Shame cannot outweigh love. And besides counseling, seek wise counsel. Write it down if you can't talk about it. If you'd like me to help you with it, I am doing one-on-one consultations. I'm not a counselor. I am a coach. I will be loving and direct. If you don't want to really talk about it, don't call me. But if you're willing to get through it, I'll at least help you, give you some words. If you want to have a conversation, I'll coach you through some of the words you can say to help you have the conversation. I want to thank you for this time. I also want to thank Jarrell for the heart in the chat. I know Jarrell, we're kind of related. Thank you so much, brother. And I just want to encourage you to be good to yourself and be good to others. Be absolute good, because you were born for a purpose and you're still here for a purpose. Those were my final thoughts. Well, maybe I might have some more final thoughts. I don't know. I think I'm supposed to have some final thoughts, and then he's supposed to run the thing, and then I'm supposed to have the outro. Okay, those are my final thoughts already. All right, you all. Please join us again next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And also, we're trying to put everything on YouTube. So please go to YouTube and subscribe. There it is, Authentic Jo Show on YouTube. Please subscribe, please like, please share. If you found anything worthy in this comment, if you found anything that can just soothe something or help somebody you know, or give you the courage to talk about it, I hope it was worth your investment in your time. And thank you so much for being with me this evening, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Check out the channel. We have all kinds of things, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm Jo Lena Johnson, and I'll see you next week.